Mitchell Show. I am your host, Lisa Mitchell. I am a certified body language trainer, executive coach, forensic interviewer. I like to do all the things. And with this show, I am here to help you learn how to crack the code in business and in life. And today, buckle up, kids. I have Stefanie Krievins with me. It's going to get real. I promise you that. It will not be boring. So Stefanie basically spends her time fixing hot messes through coaching and through training services. And we're going to let Stefanie kind of unpack what she does. But I can tell you, Stefanie and I are kind of new entities to each other. In the last couple of months, we were introduced by a mutual friend and are part of an amazing sisterhood of the Magic Ruckus Makers now. So we hold each other accountable. We help each other achieve goals. We talk through the crazy, shitty stuff that happens in life, and just try to get each other off our islands. And so, Stefanie, I'm super grateful that you are part of my tribe and that we get to do life both professionally and personally together. And I'm so excited for the people watching and listening to this to get to meet you. So without further ado, Stefanie, welcome to the Lisa.
Oh boy. Thank you, Lisa. I am thrilled to be here and to share this time with you and to share some of my work with your listeners. It's really an honor. I guess my work is I work with professional troublemakers. These are people that want to make a meaningful difference in the world, who want to take extreme ownership over their job and say, how can I do this to the best of my ability? And what oftentimes happens in our workplaces is it gets a little too out of control. We lose our influence. We lose our ability to build relationships and see the results that we need to with our teams because we want to do something really great. And so I help people kind of course correct with that. How do you build relationships, but at the same time, see really awesome results with your teams and figure out how to challenge the status quo, yet still remain in relationship with people? Because those two don't always go together in the workplace today.
Yeah, don't I know it? That's my corporate career in a nutshell right there.
Yeah, that's why I work for myself and now use the lessons I learned the hard way to help people do what I should have done.
And I'm glad you're doing that, and anyone who works with you is lucky that you chose that as well.
Oh, you're sweet.
You make a huge impact and you help people see truth, which is a lot of times half the battle, I think.
It is.
Tell me a little bit, because I'm sure, one of the things we talk about on this show is making difficult decisions, right? And you transition from a corporate career. I transition from a corporate career. There's a lot of people that don't understand why we would do that. How did you go from being kind of a professional troublemaker yourself in a corporate environment to taking the steps and taking the leap to come out and really kind of help serve those people in your own practice?
Yeah, I think in order to make these really tough leaps, you have to get really connected to your intuition, because your intuition is always sending you the messages that it needs to take the next best step. Doing the right thing is always the right thing. And you can't know what the right thing is unless you're really tapped into yourself. And so I found myself in a job that I absolutely hated because I had signed up for a project that contributed greatly to the mission of the organization, yet I shouldn't have been doing. I had the skill set to do it. I was doing a huge database transition project for a nonprofit that needed the help, and I had the skills, unfortunately, to do it. So I said yes. I shouldn't have said yes. It was not my work to do. And so I found myself cleaning an Excel file that was 26,000 rows long for 4 months straight. Anybody who's ever met me knows that I love people way too much to be spending that much time in front of a computer. And I hated my job and I hated my life, and I wanted to go home and drink a bottle of wine every night. But I knew that was not the right answer. And so I found coaching. I was like,
sure that's not the right answer?
It's not the right answer. I mean, I know it happens every once in a while, and I'm not saying that, that it needs to happen, but if every day at 4:00, I was like, God, I need a few glasses of wine. Not a healthy response, ladies. Not a healthy response. I'm not going to judge her frequency, but I am going to say every is too much. But it was that frustration that was leaking out and had nowhere to go because my intuition was saying, Stefanie, stop saying yes to other people's visions. Stop saying yes to other people's missions because you have a vision and a mission that you're supposed to accomplish on your own. And so I went through coaching to help me discern, Stefanie, and this is my own internal talk. This is how I talk to myself. I never want to work for somebody ever again. And that was my intuition calling me. And I needed help peeling back those layers so that I could listen to myself and not listen to the world's expectations.
God, that's so hard though. Like that, I know that exact spot that you're in that moment. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people listening and watching right now that are in that spot every day where they're doing work that it's like, I can do it, but it's not meant for me and it's not the right thing for me. How did that play with the people in your life, your family and your stakeholders, your emotional stakeholders? What was that like when you finally followed your intuition and had that moment of like, I've got to change, like staying static, staying in this misalignment is not working for me?
Yeah. I had 2 really tough conversations during that time in my life, and working with a coach gave me the courage to say to myself what I wanted. And then I had to go home to my husband and say, dear husband, dear Mr. Stability, which is his gift to this world and gift to our relationship, I want to go out on my own. And I can't even tell you right now what coaching is. I can't tell you what I'll be doing, but I've got to try this thing. And I remember sitting in front of him bawling. I mean, just curled up in a ball, bawling of, I don't know what it is I'm going to do, but I have to do this. Yeah. And he knew that my pain was so great, like that mental anguish of I need to bust out and do this thing on my own, that he was supportive in words. And he'll tell you this, he wasn't supportive at first because he doesn't have an entrepreneurial streak in his body, but he knew that for my own mental health and happiness, I had to do it. Yeah. And so I kind of, and at that point I was like, I'm breaking free. I'm going to go do this thing. And he's like, well, no, that's not a good idea because you have no plan for money and you don't know how you're going to get money. So how about you transition out of your employer? I was like, oh, that's a really good idea, honey. Not just, cut all the cords and break free. And so I crafted a plan that said, dear former employer, I would like 1 job with you, not 4. And I would like to work 30 hours a week and I would like to be a contractor. And, would you do this? And so I went to my boss, the head of the organization, and said, this is my plan. I want to go through coach training school, but I also want to serve you because I'm passionate about the mission. Would you let me be part-time and be a contractor? And also, I'm going to be going through coach training school and building my business. And they said yes. And it was because it was a tough conversation for me to be that brave. I actually wrote out a script to say, dear boss, this is what I would like to say to you today, because I was so nervous and I didn't want to back away from saying what I really wanted. But I said, I would like to work part-time and here's what's going on and why. And I want to fulfill part of my mission with you guys and part of my mission this other way. And I remember my boss just going, wow, thank you for saying that. Like, thank you for being so brave to stand up for what you need. And she goes, we'll work out the logistics, but yes, we're going to make it happen. And so they hired 4 people to replace the 4 jobs I was doing so I could do 1 new thing for them. And I worked 30 hours a week at that organization. I went through coach training school and I worked another 40 hours a week on building my business for about 1.5 years.
Wow. So and it's funny, before you said brave, I had written it and underlined it because that's such a brave, I think part of this idea of being in control is the agreement that you make with yourself when you say, I want to take control of my situation, is you're signing the contract to be brave.
Yes. Yep.
Right? Because people don't just give you control and it doesn't just feel natural. It's you assert yourself, especially I think as women, and especially in early stages of career, or maybe when you're not the one making decisions in an organization, having that bravery to take control and to be very specific about, like, I love that you built a business case, right? You essentially built a business case for why this would be advantageous for them.
Of course.
In addition to you being able to be fulfilled and still do quality work. And I think that bravery, that objective measure of here's what it's going to look like. Here, you made it so easy for them to say yes to you. Right. And it wasn't you being emotional, and it wasn't you saying, I can't do this anymore, I'm out of alignment. It wasn't you taking that approach at all. And I think when I coach as well, the first thing I say is, how do you build a business case for this? If someone wants something different in their career or their organization, or even building a business case to your spouse, right? How do you sell this to maintain control respectfully of your own desires, your own purpose, your own path? And it comes down to a business plan, an objective way to map out, to make other people see the benefit for them.
Yes.
While not sacrificing what you ultimately know your intuition is telling you to do.
That's right. Yeah. And I would say, because I work with people who want to change the world, who want to make a meaningful difference. And I believe everyone believes that. Right. Where I think we get too heavy-handed with it is that we think that in order to change the world, we've got to control everything. We have to be controlling, not be in control. Those are two very different things. And that's why I say doing the right thing is always the right thing, because if you're trying to do too much to do work that's not yours to do, ultimately you're not allowing other people to do the work that's meant for them to do, because you're taking on too much. You're working outside of your skill set. You get too emotionally wrapped up in it. You can't be objective, and you can't think from other people's perspectives, because you're just, it's all about me. I've got to do all of this work. And that's the situation I was wrapped up in before I asked to do one job. I was doing 4 people's jobs.
Because you just keep saying yes, right?
Yes.
You have the skill set to do it. You'll find a way to have the capacity.
Yes.
Because you want to make people happy. You want to work for the greater good. And we so often think that means the trade-off is to sacrifice.
Yes.
Sacrifice ourselves, right? Martyr syndrome.
Oh, yes.
Do more for your family, do more for your employer, do more for the greater good. And then what does that leave you? Like, how do you manage, being in control takes a lot of energy. It's not as emotionally taxing sometimes as being stuck. But it takes a lot of emotional and physical energy to be in control, to make objective decisions, to find your path and do the next right thing. What happens when you run dry?
Well, today I'm going to call that Thursday, Lisa.
Well, and that's real. Like, I appreciate, and before we started recording today, Stefanie and I had the conversation about she showed up. Right? Like, today's win is that you showed up, and win number 2 is that you're still here. So you have 2 wins today. And it's the realness that sometimes just showing up, like, that is your gold star.
Yes. Yeah, it's because I told Lisa, I'm not feeling 100%. I wanted to take a sick day today, but there's too much good stuff that has to get done, that if it doesn't get done today, it'll have to be fit in when I don't have time to fit it in. And sometimes you just have to push through. The things that I'm learning about myself is, one, I'm a sprinter. I'm not a marathoner. So I'm always thinking, how do I sprint through the day? Not how do I pace myself through the week? And so with every good sprint, you have to take that hard rest. And I'm not good at taking that hard rest. And so sometimes the universe is like, Stefanie, here's illness to make you rest a little bit. So I'll pay attention to that later. I would say what I've learned as I've taken control of my life and of my day and of my schedule, being in control is actually much less exhausting than trying to control everything. Because when you're able to create your priorities, the emotional drama that comes with trying to control shit is gone. Yeah. Because when you're controlling, you're trying to control everybody's reaction to you. You're trying to control everybody's emotions. I just want people to like me. I want to make sure I show up perfectly, blah, 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 blah. No, show up in a good enough way. Like, what you got right now is good enough.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And I think, I talk a lot about how you're showing up in a room and your first impression and how you're setting the temperature for interactions. And how do you, on a day like today, Stefanie, when it's like showing up as your gold star, how do you set intentions about going into interactions? Like before we did this today, right? Like you had to decide how you were going to show up. For me and for the listeners and for the viewers. So can you walk us through that process of how you help your show up in a physical space? and
Yeah.
in a way that aligns even when you're just not necessarily at full energy?
Yeah. So I do walk through a very intentional process now to clear my mind to say, what you have today, what you have right now is good enough. And I just let the chatter just leave my brain. And oftentimes what that also means is closing out my email box at least 10 or 15 minutes before my next significant meeting or engagement, because I find my email box to be really overwhelming. Because I've got 40 emails sitting there right now that need legit responses. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to focus on that later. But right now I'm going to get ready for Lisa and our listeners, and I want to be present. And so I say, what do I need in order to do that? And I just ask myself that. And oftentimes it always involves more coffee, because coffee cures almost everything in my life. So I had a huge coffee, and then I got some water, and I make sure I had my Kleenexes handy. I don't anticipate crying today, but you never know. But I got the sniffles, so I want to be ready for that. But it's very simply like, what do I need physically? How do I intentionally want to show up? And today I want to show up just being myself and making sure I bring some silliness, and I bring my silly stories, and probably drop my F-bomb, because that's what I do on accident and on purpose. And that's it. And then I'll just kind of scan my body physically going down just to bring peace and calm to it. I always feel anxiety in my knees. I don't know why that is, but my nervousness hits my knees. And so when it hits my knees, it's a choice to turn it into energy and excitement and move it up, or turn it into anxiety and panic and move through my feet. I don't know why that is in my body, but that's how I feel all of that.
Yeah.
And then I check into my intuition, where I know exactly where it lives in my, it's really just below my stomach. And so I check into that and say, bring my values of creativity and generosity today, and we'll see what happens.
I love that. And I love that it's such a process.
It is.
And I think that that's one thing, if there's something I could really encourage the listeners and the viewers to establish, it would be find your process for personality.
Yes.
Because it makes all the difference when we're just running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and we don't ever pause, we don't ever check in.
Yes.
We don't ever honor or acknowledge what's going on as we transition. We don't transition well, and all of that chaos and franticness and anxiety walks into the room with us, and other people read that. Like, there's sometimes I'll walk into a room and it's for a meeting with someone who's just rushed in from something else, or who hasn't checked in with themselves, and I take on that anxiety. I take on that frantic feeling and that anxiousness. And it's, and being an empath is great and awful all at the same time.
That's right. Yes.
It makes me a great empathetic coach, because I can feel what other people are feeling, but it also has me lugging around a lot of baggage that's not always mine.
Yes.
So I appreciate you coming into the space with me, being clear of that, and aware of that, and mindful of just how you're showing up in a room. And I think that's a tool and a area of development for everyone listening, that you can change how people are experiencing you by just taking that moment and running whatever your process is.
Yes.
Figure out, where am I? What do I need? And how am I feeling about the next right thing for this situation?
Yes. Yeah. It's one of the things and I learned it from Brendan Burchard, who I know we both mutually admire. And he said, and he has a practice that I've brought on my own too, is release what you were doing and set the intention moving forward. So we all have to answer emails. So block off an hour to answer emails. Notice how you're feeling at the end of that. Release it, because oftentimes it is tension, because we're all just human beings, and all of those variables tend to overwhelm our brains. It's just neurological. Release that. Set your intention for the next activity, and use your daily planner so you know what your next activity is. Set your intention and go.
Right.
Don't get caught up in the spin. Don't carry that energy from one activity into the next. It applies to every minute of every day.
Yeah. And it's such a practice of discipline. And, again, because we work in realness here, I was sharing with Stefanie before we started recording that I had someone very lovingly reflect back to me what the good disciplines that I'm not or the good habits that I'm not being disciplined about yesterday. And the planner, you know, we love our Panda planners. The planner is one thing. It's actually propping up the leg of my table right now to keep my screen from wobbling, which is not its intended purpose. At least today it's being used, because I did not do it this morning as part of my mindfulness practice, which I should. You know, I had a couple of habits that I know are good for me that I have just for whatever reason chosen not to maintain and not to be disciplined around. And one of my words for this year was discipline. And it's interesting that now it's like, okay, well, let's see. Are you serious about committing to this? And it's things I'm doing, you know, nutritionally and health wise and physical fitness wise. It's relationally, and it's process. It's how are you running your day or not running your day? I felt more untethered, more unanchored, more frazzled and frantic this week than I have since the beginning of the year. And it's cause and effect.
Yes.
Right. So how do you, when you get off course with something and when you fall off a discipline, how do you re-engage? Like, what advice do you have for me from a re-engage, you know, get your ass in gear standpoint? Cause really I need to know. This is selfish for me now.
I'll preface it with, I'm probably not the best at this, so don't take it as advice, but I'll share with you what I do. I'm not a highly disciplined, highly structured kind of person. I need a strong amount of variety in my life in order to feel free and authentic. So I probably psych myself out and build in discipline in unknown ways. So just to trick myself, my subconscious brings it in and says, Stefanie, you need some more discipline in your life. Do this. So what I know about myself is that I embrace the fact that I am a sprinter, not a marathoner. Right. I use that to my advantage. So when I'm in a high flow state, when I'm in a high energy state, I use that to focus on the right work that needs to get done. I think that's my secret trick number one. I have committed to using the Panda Planner this year, like our peer group has committed to. I don't use it daily. I've probably fallen off the track a little bit, but I do know that when I do use it, the transition time between tasks has been reduced by like 4,000%. And that's not an accurate statistic, but you know what I'm saying. Because where I lose a great amount of energy and momentum is transitioning tasks. So I know I need to get caught up on my email. I know I need to create this contract for today. I know that I need to follow up with my accountant on this. And when I have my Panda Planner to just go through my tasks, night and day. I mean, it's a difference between this could take 30 minutes and it could take 3 hours because I let all the shit and the spin kind of wrap itself around all those tasks. So I remind myself of, oh, you know how to be efficient, right? Like go to your Panda Planner, focus. And sometimes the thing that really helps me get back onto my discipline, and this is because of how my brain works, is I have to organize and straighten up my space because I know that my physical space reflects my mental space. And so that's the break that I build in to be like, oh, my physical space looks like a hot mess right now. Take 20 minutes, organize what you can, and it clears the mental crap I got going on and I can move forward. Yeah. And so other things I do, like I like float therapy. That's fun. Yoga sometimes is because I need variety. I'm like, oh, I'm going to try this thing over here. I'm going to try this thing over here. I am not a go to the gym 3 times a week kind of girl. I hate the gym. But it's usually for me when I'm feeling too stressed out, I need to bring in variety in my life, and that jumpstarts my brain because I know that's what I need.
Well, and I love the fact that just the awareness of what energizes me versus what depletes me. Like, yes, as simple as how do I structure my day?
Yeah.
Knowing that you need variety, right? I think that there's this misperception, especially as people are kind of early in their career or kind of taking ownership of their time.
Yes.
For the first time after coming out of college, of, oh, there's a right way to do life, right? Yeah. Like you mentioned going to the gym, like, okay, well, I need to join a gym and I need to go every morning at 5 a.m. or I need to, and I love that you just drew such a sharp distinction around what people expect or perceive as right versus
Yes.
what is right for you.
Yes.
And honoring that. And right, if you don't honor that and there's going to be consequences, there's going to be repercussions. And I think that's true for everyone listening and watching too. So I want to challenge everyone who's hearing this to think about, what are you doing just because it's what you think you should do, or because other people are doing it, or because the Instagram lifestyle bloggers say that it's the next best thing, right? How much of your time and your energy and your day is being devoted to things that and feel are honoring you and are aligned with you versus what you feel you should be doing?
Yes.
That's a game. Just even knowing that and owning it, I think is really such a powerful way to change your day.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, Stefanie.
And I've learned it the easy way and the hard way. When I was in a training and the trainer said, she said something similar to, I'm a sprinter, not a marathoner. Like, I like to go, go, go until I'm exhausted, and then I take a long break.
Right.
Oh,
you're like, wait, that's a thing. I'm allowed to operate that way.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I think there's we had talked about taking action even when you're afraid. And I think part of the fear that people have is that it's not what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
This overriding, and most of the clients that I work with have been held back for long periods of time in major areas of their life because they are afraid of taking ownership, or they're afraid of doing something different than what other people expect them through. Have you had a situation, we talked a little bit about career transition, but maybe in other areas of your life where you were just scared, like terrified to do something, but intuition said do it?
Oh, I'm working on building awareness around this right now because I often get the feedback, you seem fearless, you seem like you are very courageous. And I don't see myself as that. I see myself as the person who always strives to make the next best decision using my intuition. Gosh, I think I'm afraid of heights, so I've been skydiving, right? Like, I'm always trying to say, what is my fear? And I'm going to go just see what I can do around it. I'm afraid of lots of stuff. But I'm more afraid of not living the life that I'm supposed to than the thing that I'm actually afraid of. Gosh, I was telling this story yesterday. I think one of the proudest moments of my life that I've had so far. So my first job out of grad school, I did marketing for a social service agency here in Indianapolis. And my job was eliminated, and I was heartbroken and stressed out and so worried about money. And I had been longingly wanting to work for this HR consulting company. And it's not because I knew anything about HR. It was because I loved what they did for other organizations. I loved that they helped bring out the best in business and in people. Yeah. And I had zero connections to this company. I was just secretly stalking them on their website. I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. How do I be a part of that? And here's how I got to be a part of it. Because I professionally stalked their website and they had their civic engagement on the website, I knew where some of the organizations they were connected to. I was volunteering at another nonprofit, and another volunteer said, hey guys, I've got to leave early because I have this board meeting at this other nonprofit. And I was like, are you on the board with, her name is Krista, with the owner of the organization? He said, oh yeah, she's there. We're, really good friends. I'm dying to work at her company. Would you ask if she would meet with me? I have no idea. I mean, I know where it came from. It was the good Lord up above, the Holy Spirit, the universe, whatever label you want to use, just shot that right out of my mouth. I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing
opportunity. Let me push you through it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so within a couple of weeks, I had a meeting with her. And it was not only because I had asked, but he had also seen me train some volunteers at the organization, and he told her what an awesome trainer I was. So those two things helped get me an eventual job at this HR consulting company that I really wanted to be at. That is a piece of my history that allows me to be successful in my business today. But you have to put yourself out there, and it's not in big moments. Like, I'm going to put down my water. Sorry. It's not, the big moments of, world, I'm here. I'm showing up. You need to give me what I want. but it's in this small everyday interaction. Because if I hadn't have said what I said in that moment, I don't know if I would have ever worked there, because I don't know what other relationships I had that would have got me in the door. But when your intuition, when your soul is telling you what to do, dear Jesus, you better do it. Like, do it. I'm looking right in the camera right now, Lisa.
No, I love it, because it's not enough to be brave. You have to also be timely.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there's the saying in business that time kills all deals.
Yes.
Well, when it comes to creativity and it comes to opportunity, like, you have a finite amount of time to take ownership and take action and be brave around that.
Yep.
That opportunity goes and finds someone else who will take action on it. Like,
yes.
I am a first-hand testament, and I talked about in the book Big Magic, which I love, about this idea that creativity is its own thing, and it will find a willing partner. And if you do not open the door when creativity knocks, it's going to go find somebody who will. And I have seen that. There have been projects, and there have been even courses or programs that I've wanted to build that I felt compelled to, that I did not act on fast enough, that somebody else did, like almost exactly, who would have had no idea what I was thinking, right? I chose not to engage with inspiration, and I lost the opportunity.
Yes.
And such a, like, kick yourself in the ass moment when you're like, I failed to be timely on that. It's not enough to want it and to be brave and know it's for you. Like, you have to actually step.
Yes. Yep. And that's, I mean, I learned that in my business last year with, pardon me, let me move my computer a little bit. My light that makes me look good died. But that makes me look like I got 10 hours of sleep last night.
Right.
You know, one of my lessons I had to learn in my business last year was how to do a sales effectively in a way that I could be proud of and I didn't feel weird about, but that I could really show up and be me in the sales process and honor that, because it's tough. Everybody who's trying to go out on their own has to learn this for themselves. And there was one particular deal that I knew if I didn't follow up, I wouldn't get it because of the passivity of the potential client. And I made myself follow up, and it took me a week to send that email, and I got the contract. But if I hadn't, it would have cost me like $5,000. Like, there were consequences to not showing up.
There's consequences to not showing up, and I love that you've had that experience, and it's true. Like, I shared in our group, you know, I lost about the same amount of money because I didn't follow up in time, and I had resistance around it, and I had self-doubt about it, and that's a whole other episode.
I know, right?
We can't even start that conversation right now. That's got rabbit hole written all over it. But exactly the point is, like, when I felt that the time was right for me to take action and follow up, had I honored that and engaged, that would be money in my bank account. But because I was resistant to it and had head trash, and sat on it too long, by the time I did follow up and engage, the opportunity had found another owner. And
yes.
That's a sad panda day when you know that you just gave somebody the gift of your paycheck.
Yes. Yeah. And it's true. It doesn't matter if it's the interview, if it's, you know, following up on sending in your resume, following up on asking your boss for that raise that you know you deserve. This lesson applies to every area of your life. Asking that cute boy out at the bar, like, all of it. When you feel, you have to know where anxiety sits in your body. And when you feel anxiety and fear raising up in your body, you have to recognize it and say, as they say in Big Magic, you know, I love that book. I love Elizabeth Gilbert. I'm such a crush on her. But when you feel it rising up, you have to honor it and say, there's something for me to learn here, but you can't drive the decision.
Right.
Your intuition, the piece of you that knows what's best for you has to drive the decision. The fear and anxiety can help you maybe temper your pace or be a little bit more cautious, but it can't stop you in your tracks, because then you're not living life on your own terms. You're living life based on what your boss wants or your best friend wants or all the people that want to keep you safe want.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that there's kind of this fear or this hesitation to take action and to take ownership, especially when you're early in your career or maybe just coming out of college and you feel like maybe you haven't earned the right yet, but you have always earned the right to do the next right thing for you.
Yes.
Always to follow your intuition, and it's never too early to start taking ownership of the things that you know intrinsically and intuitively are meant for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I met with a woman yesterday. She's probably early 30s, so definitely in the millennial crowd. She has lived the life of, I looked and played the part to be successful in the typical American dream kind of way, which is an awesome lifestyle if that's the lifestyle that was meant for you. But she came from that typical success story. She created it for herself after college, and she was telling me, I leased a fancy car. I drove the fancy clothes that I really couldn't afford. I could afford them, but then I wasn't saving money or paying off my student loans as fast as I should have been. And it got me to the job I wanted within a year. Is that a good thing? And now she's like, I'm not sure that it was. And now the universe has brought her to a place where, by way of her career, she made the best decision for her, and she's rethinking her entire lifestyle. Yeah. And so if you put off your intuition long enough, the universe will make things and bring things to your life for a purpose. So to really force you to do that and evaluate it if you really want to be engaged in your own life.
Yeah, no, I love that. And she's lucky to have you to work with. So I want my audience to also be lucky enough to work with you. I think we're gonna wrap it up, and I'm gonna send them to where they can find you. But some key ideas that I just want to really encourage everybody to sit on and think about and really apply ultimately is, you have to stop saying yes to other people's mission and vision. And just because you have the skill set to do something doesn't mean it's your job to do. I think that's such a great challenge to ask yourself, is this meant for me? Is this the fit for me?
Yes.
And make decisions accordingly. I love the idea of being brave and asking, but having it backed by a business case. So be objective, bring the win-win, make the ask.
Yes.
But do it in a business case way that it's really easy for somebody to say yes to. And the idea of knowing the difference between controlling versus being in control, and aiming to be in control, because that's where you get the outcome. That's where you conserve your energy. That's where you're picking the right battles.
Yes.
And really setting yourself up to chart your own course and make your decisions. So, oh God, there's so much. Like I have 20 takeaways. Like seriously, I have a whole page of notes because I'm like, oh my God, that's so good. The good news is that I'll put some key takeaways in the show notes, and get you to where you can connect with Stefanie. Stefanie, where's the best place for people to show up in the same space with you and get more of your wisdom?
Oh boy. So my website is stefaniekrievins.com. That's, I think, where all great conversations start. You can join my mailing list. I send out a newsletter to hopefully inspire you to be brave and make the next best decision and really be effective problem solvers. I see all of this work through the lens of there is great work to be done in this world, and every problem has a solution. And so these things that we talked about today is how are you part of those solutions, not just complaining about the problems that exist in this world. So go to stefaniekrievins.com. The specific link will be down there.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Stefanie, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing with the listeners and viewers today. I wish we had another 3 hours, but we both have other stuff we need to do. So we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching the Lisa Mitchell Show and listening to it on iTunes. If you have somebody that could benefit from the conversation that Stefanie and I had today, please share it out. Encourage them to subscribe. You can find me, as always, at powerbodylanguage.com. I would love to start the conversation with you there. And until next time, be awesome showing up in the places and spaces that you go to during your day. Take care.